All right, let's get into it. Today, we are putting AI detectors under the microscope. If you've ever found yourself wondering just how accurate these tools really are, well, you are in for one heck of a surprise. It's the question everyone's asking, right? Whether it's a student's essay or a professional report, we're all trying to figure out what was written by a person and what was cooked up by a machine. Now, these detectors are supposed to work by spotting patterns. Things like sentence structure, word choice, that kind of stuff. Human writing, it's usually got some variety, it's a little messy, a little unpredictable. Early AI, on the other hand, can be just a bit too perfect. But the real question is, can these digital detectors actually tell the difference anymore? To get to the bottom of this, we've got our single piece of evidence, a conference text. Now, the author was totally upfront about how it was made. They wrote most of it themselves, a human, but they used some AI tools to help polish it up, refine a few things, and let's be honest, that's how a ton of people write today. So, knowing how this text was put together, the author had a pretty reasonable expectation. The AI score should be somewhere in the middle. Not zero because AI was used, but for sure not over 50% since a person did the heavy lifting. Seems logical, right? Well, let's see what our detectives actually found. Okay, so the stage is set. We have our one text and we've brought in 7 different AI detectors to give it a look. Think of it like this: 7 detectives, all examining the exact same piece of evidence. And here is our lineup. We've got some heavy hitters in here, like High PDF and the very well-known GPT-0. Then there's Grammarly's detector, Quillbot, Decopy AI, Zero GPT, and a tool that's just called, well, AI Detector. You'd think, with a crew like this, we'd get some answers. The hope, the dream, was for one clear, consistent answer. But what our little investigation uncovered was something else entirely. It was just complete and utter chaos. So our 7 detectives didn't just have, minor disagreements on the details. Oh no, they came back with completely different stories about what happened here. Okay, you really need to see this, because this is where things go completely off the rails. Look at these results for the exact same text. Over on one end, you've got AI Detector, shouting from the rooftops that this text is 70% AI generated. Zero GPT is right behind it, pointing the finger at 56%. But then, the story just flips on its head. Grammarly says, maybe 19%. And GPT-0? It's basically saying the text is almost entirely human, flagging it at just 2%. That is not a small difference. It's a totally different reality. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. A 68 percentage point gap between the highest score and the lowest score for the same piece of writing. This isn't just a minor disagreement among experts, it's a total breakdown that makes you question the entire process. And this really shows you the two camps that formed. You've got the accusers, AI Detector and Zero GPT, who are absolutely convinced this thing is machine-made, and then you've got the defenders, HPDF and GPT-0, arguing, nope, it's almost all human. They literally can't both be right. And that's the big problem, isn't it? When all your experts are telling you completely different things, when the tools give you polar opposite answers, who are you supposed to believe? How can anyone possibly make a fair judgment based on this? These wild results forced us to dig a little deeper. I mean, if the raw numbers are this chaotic, maybe we could get some clarity by looking at the reputations of these tools. The thing is, modern AI-assisted writing is a blend. It's nuanced. So to try and make sense of this, we decided to check out what actual users are saying about some of our key detectives. So first up, Zero GPT. This was one of our accusers, remember? Came in hot with a 56% AI score. So what's the deal with that? Well, here's the word on the street. It's fast and it's free, which people love. But it has a reputation for being wrong. It's known for being overly strict, especially with academic writing, sometimes flagging it as AI just because it's formal and structured. And that could totally explain why it gave our text such a high score. Okay, now let's flip to the other side and look at one of our defenders, GPT-0. It came back with that tiny 2% AI score, basically saying there was no AI to see here. And this is where it gets really interesting. GPT-0 is generally seen as one of the more serious, more respected tools out there. But even its biggest fans will admit that it can really struggle with mixed texts, part human, part AI. It seems like in this case, it just completely underestimated the AI's role, missing the digital fingerprints almost entirely. And what about good old Grammarly?
It came in at 19%, which, funny enough, was the score that felt the most plausible to the author. It landed right in that moderate zone they were expecting all along. But here's the kicker, the real irony. Even though its result felt the most realistic in our test, the general consensus among users is that Grammarly is fine for a quick peek, but it's not the tool you'd bet the farm on for a final, accurate judgment. So, we've seen conflicting results, we've heard mixed reviews. Where does that leave us? What's the final verdict here? And more importantly, what should you, as a writer, a student, an educator, take away from all this noise? Here it is, the single most important takeaway. Right now, no AI detector is even close to 100% reliable, and their accuracy absolutely tanks when they have to deal with the most common, real-world scenario there is, a human writer using AI as a co-pilot.
Now, based purely on this one experiment, the author put together their own ranking, and it's pretty fascinating. Grammarly, the tool that nobody really trusts for accuracy, ended up in first place for giving the most balanced and realistic result. The super strict ones, like ZeroGPT, got ranked lower for just being too over the top, and the ones that barely detected anything, like GPT-0, ended up dead last for being completely unrealistic in the other direction.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question. If every detective you hire brings back a different suspect and tells you a completely different story, you have to start wondering if you're even solving a crime at all. When it comes to AI content, what are these tools really detecting? Maybe it's not the truth, but just their own deeply flawed version of it.